When you talk like that, I'm tempted to ring for...
Hello and welcome to Last Week On. My name is Adam Straughan and we are here covering episode 3 of Invincible from season 2, which is this Missive, this Machination. So much happens in this episode, but before we jump in, I want to introduce my guest. So he is the co-host of Coffee and Tequila, which I believe is coming back as well very soon, as well as the co-host of My Bloody Judy as well. You heard his voice last week. He's here again. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome back my buddy Zachary Patton-Garcia. How are you doing?
I'm never leaving. I'm just like a part of this now.
A fixture. Yeah, man.
Current host.
This this episode, Zach, like, did it blow your mind as much as it did mine?
Well, it did. So it did, and I have a lot of thoughts on this episode, and it did blow my mind. And it was again another really well crafted episode. Like this season is just full of. We're only on 3 episodes. How are we only on 3 episodes? It feels like there has been more. I do feel like they pack so much into these episodes that it feels like we have gotten like double that, like 6 episodes at least. This one starts with an episode. And then we get a second episode. We literally get 2 episodes within this episode. So it's insanity.
It is crazy. It is like it's a double whammy in this, and like we get like a different like opening title as well, which I absolutely love. And we get like
the creators are taking a bunch of drugs and are just like doing anything and everything with this show right now.
Yeah, they're just like, you know what, like if we can get it in, let's just pack it in. But like literally so much. But it's weird because it's still got such a nice flow to it. Like I never feel like, okay, I'm totally lost, because I think we still got our main characters that are taking us through the madness, so we kind of attach ourselves to them, which works. But yeah, Zach, let's jump in. Let's start. So opening of this episode, we get, obviously this is referencing what we got last time when Mark and Amber were opening their letters. They've been accepted into their college. So now this is Debbie dropping off Mark in the opening to his new college, right?
I love that we're speeding through. Like, I didn't need to see all summer before college. I'm glad we're there already.
Yeah, like, and it does like passage of time really well, where like we always get caught up on things, but we never feel like we've missed out. It's like, right, yep, I got this. We're there. Like we don't have to sit in, like, as you said, all summer for like 12 weeks or whatever. But yeah, so obviously the conversation here is really nice, where like, she's getting a little bit like teary-eyed because, she's losing her baby, like baby boy, he's like fleeing the nest. And they talk a little bit about grieving as well. And like she does say that line, like anger's part of it, part of the grieving, which I really, really liked as well.
Yeah.
And like Debbie takes a real interesting journey in this episode in terms of like her grief and her trauma.
It's devastating. It's sad.
Yeah.
Like the last shot we get of her, we'll have to do like a deeper talk about it. But
100%.
It's just, I don't know. Everything they're doing with Debbie this season is wonderful. And I'm so here for the direction that they're taking them and the conversations about grief. And this is a whole nother level of grief, right? Like this is a grief that is attached to this person that we loved so much. We're not only grieving our father and who we thought our father or our husband was, but this person who has done terrible things to everybody, and we, like, a lot of that blame now falls on us because he's not here to take responsibility. So we have to take on that responsibility. And I did really love that when she's dropping him off, is trying to remind Mark to focus on fighting himself as well. You're not just invincible, Mark. You're also a person. Like, you may be invincible in Viltrumite on your dad's half, right? But I made you also, and you're also human, and you have an identity outside of invincible. And because it's true, right? He's so young that taking on this identity of invincible and just letting that be all encompassing, he really runs the risk of losing himself as Mark,
100% that. And like, I mean, Debbie even says to him, like, college is a fresh start to figure out who you are, not invincible, but Mark Grayson, right? And like, at the end of the day, Mark is a teenager, so it's appealing to a teenager. Oh my God, I get to be a superhero. That becomes your personality, right? And especially how much he looked up to his dad. Debbie's always there to remind him, don't become your father. And because literally, look what happened, and she's always there to remind him that it's so important that you figure out who you are before you become that superhero, because that'll inform the decisions you make.
Just everybody who's even not a superhero, just all of us. It's really important, especially at an age like that, to start off on the right foot in figuring out who you are, because you can go down a side path that'll take you through so much darkness so easily.
Yeah, very, very true. And then, I love, like, I mean, Debbie, it's like, I mean, I absolutely adore Debbie. As you know, we're Debbie stans on this podcast, but
Yes, it should
this
just be the Debbie
episode,
podcast.
the Debbie Show, just give me the Debbie Show. It should just like the title should just be Debbie rather than Invincible. But
It comes in now. This is
yeah, this
Debbie.
is Debbie.
I count on you for that edit, right?
I'm gonna put it
waiting for
in.
the edit. Okay, perfect.
I'm gonna put it in. But yeah, like Debbie breaks my heart all the way through this episode because it's different layers of trauma and grief and sadness that this woman goes through. And like here, when she sits back in the car, like she shows herself being strong for Mark, and she even says, like, I told myself I wasn't gonna cry, but when she gets in the car, she does actually wipe some tears away.
Yeah.
But then we get the reveal of the card that Olga handed her back in episode 1. And she obviously turns it over. She looks at the number. She gives it a call. It's a female voice straight away. Says, I don't want to know your surname, but like we've been expecting your call. Olga obviously told me about you, and then we don't get anything else of that until later on.
We didn't know what that card was earlier, right?
No.
Okay, because I do like. There's so much information that goes into this that I am missing character names. I'm missing plot points. I'm like, was this already mentioned before? Am I missing something? Okay, so we didn't know prior that this is going to be a support group.
Yes, exactly that. All we saw was Olga in episode 1 slid her the card and just said, this may help. And that's all we got. That was it. So then, yes, we then cut back to Mark and his BFF, William, who are sharing a room in college.
How happy this makes me that they are roommates. Also, if you're a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you will have immediately thought of Freshman, season 4, episode 1. This feels exactly like that. Always think of that every time I see anybody moving into a college dorm. This feels like it. I'm expecting. I almost expect William to put up the poster of was it Celine Dion?
Yes. Yeah.
Start playing Believe on repeat.
Oh my God. Like, give me that, please. Give me an episode of just that, like them decorating
his
their
side
room.
of the room was that. It was very
Spotless.
coded in Kathy.
Yeah, 100%. She's like rolling an egg on the desk later on. But always 100%. And I love that they play up to that as well. Like when they're hanging the picture in that little moment when they're like, is that straight? And they both like crank their heads just to look at the picture. It's dumb, but it's fun. And yeah, like they take a second when they linger over, like the camera lingers over William's side of the room, and it's absolutely spotless and gleaming and sparkling. I love as well that moment of when, and like I literally wrote in my notes, like, this is me and this is Zach. Like when he's got all of his collectibles in the box and he's like, you're going to throw them out? And he's like, those are collectibles. Those
I don't throw those out though.
priceless.
I don't throw those out. As I get older, I collect more of them. So they're just, I'm having more. But so I was a gay in college, and my room was never immaculate like this. I never had posters on the wall, things like that. I had a big ass American flag on the wall. I had a lot of camo everywhere, and I had I was the college dude who had a single like fitted sheet and a single pillow that may or may not have had a pillowcase on it most of the time, and that was it. And then just messy room everywhere. Kept my beer cans. It was terrible. So I wish I had a room like William, but
Had a William to balance you out, huh?
I was more of a Mark in this.
Yeah. You know what? I was the same. Like my university room, Jesus Christ, it looked like a prison cell. Like honestly, it was just like it was not a nice vibe in there at all. Like bland walls, like a sink in the room as well. It was not a nice room, but yeah, like there was no personality.
Did you have a roommate too?
No, so like I had like my own single room, but then we were like had all like our rooms right next door to each other. So like we could hear each other, like we could hear the music blasting through the night and stuff like that. I remember my roommate was a bit of a dick and like used to blast music at like 3 a.m. when everyone was trying to get to sleep. And I used to like grab my shoe and like throw it off the wall sometimes and just hear like and then the music go down.
I got in so many fights over just lack of sleep. When you're tired, when you're hungover, when you're ready to go to class the next day, however it may be, you get interrupting my sleep specifically. That will spark an argument, and I used to argue with my roommates all the time over sleep.
Same. It would be like in the kitchen on the morning, like, so we had a shared kitchen. It would just be like silence as everyone was eating their breakfast, just like staring at each other. So awkward. But yeah, and then obviously Mark, like he has the figures. I love that he like looks around, he sees everyone's really maturing. He's like, I should probably throw these out. I would never, but Mark chooses to. But I like that he throws them out and then closes the bin, opens it up again. He's actually not
it's
you.
It's like Andy with Woody.
Woody,
right?
yes.
It's very Toy Story.
It is very coded. And obviously that's a nice reference to that character because we get a call back to that character later on. We then obviously get Mark and Amber. Well, sorry, William tells him about the whole sock thing as well, the sock on the doorknob as well, which is obviously important. for
Yeah.
college. And then obviously we get Amber and Mark, they're in the same
Well,
room, and they
Mark
talk.
goes back to the room and sees the sock on there, and that's what makes him go to
Yes,
the Ambers.
and
But so he
thinks
assumes
he's
that
hooking
William
up.
is already hooking up, and we learn a little bit later that he's not. But the moment I went to school at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the
Mm.
moment I got to Tuscaloosa, the moment like we entered that town, I like downloaded Grinder on my phone, and was immediately looking for hookups and stuff like that. So I fully get this. And it would have been more realistic had William already been hooking up with somebody. But
100% with that guy,
it's
right?
okay. Yes. But then, yeah, like you said, Mark does go to Amber's room, and this is really where they show us how adult the show is now, right? Well, I mean, I
Hmm.
guess if it wasn't adult before, with all of the killings and chopping people
Yeah.
in half and all of that, right? Yeah. We're
This
just
is a
not in
different
high
adult.
school anymore. Yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are Buffy Summers having sex with Parker, and like we are at that level now.
Absolutely there. I love like the question as well, like when because it's awkward, right? Obviously, this like Mark straight away is caught up guard, like he kind of wasn't expecting this, and Amber's the one that like pursues it. But I love as well when
Yes.
she's like, "You don't have super sperm, do you? Like you won't accidentally crush me."
Smart. I really liked her in this episode,
Yeah,
right? And I'm not
same,
an Amber
same,
fan. Like they have to win me
same.
over on Amber, but I really liked her in this episode. And what a smart question to ask, right?
Hmm.
It's like I know nothing about your DNA. What a
Exactly.
Viltrumide's DNA is like. Is this sperm going to punch through that condom and
Hmm.
impregnate me with 12 superhero babies? I is it gonna kill me? Is it just gonna like completely chop me in half? Or is it like an alien's spit where it's just acid and it's just gonna burn through me? There's anything could have happened here. She also goes
Hmm.
through, well, what's your super strength like? Maybe I
Hmm.
should get on top.
Yes.
Smart. Just
Yep.
so smart.
She knows it. She's thought about it. I love that. Like, will the sperm shoot out like a bullet? Will it go straight through her? Who knows? She's got to ask these questions and be prepared, right? But it was fun,
Exactly.
and it's a different level of like experiencing adulthood, right? Like in this kind of show, but also like as you said, we this show is very adult, where we've seen all the blood, the guts, the gore, and everything like that. But this is a different way of being adult, and we're kind of exploring that
Yes.
with Mark as well, which I absolutely love.
So
So then,
they have
obviously,
not had sex yet then.
no, no.
This is
I
the
think
first time.
this is
Mm,
the first time, yeah. And
okay.
yeah, then this. So this was like really divisive. I was like, people are actually going to love this or hate this, and it depends on if you really like Alan the alien. But this like narrator voice kind of kicking in, and then the camera pulling back out of the room to avoid them
Have
having
you checked
sex.
out the reactions to this? Because I just got done watching the episode like an hour ago, so I haven't seen
Yeah.
other people's reactions to it.
M-
What are people
Most
saying?
people, so most people first are like, "What the fuck is going on?" Because this narrator like is brand new, and I was like, "Is that Seth Rogen like doing another voice?" But it was a completely different actor. And then most people are just shocked but love it. That's the general
Yeah,
reaction. Some people are like, "Ah, like whatever." But I love
yeah.
Alan the Alien, so I'm fully into this. But I
This is
loved it. It was
fun. It's
yeah,
fun stuff. It's
exactly.
playing around with format and playing around
Yes.
with storytelling and
Yep.
what a wonderful way to make us care about a character in 20 minutes. In
Hmm.
20 minutes because I was all invested in his world. I was like,
Yep.
yes, I'll take a whole spin-off show about that just based off
Honestly,
this 20 minutes.
absolutely that. And like by the end of this as well, like literally pulling at my heartstrings to like a character who I've just met involved with Alan the Alien. I was like,
Hmm.
whoa, like they went there. Obviously, we'll get to it, but I love this. It shows for a show that has so much going on and packs so much in, it packs so much into 20 minutes that doesn't feel like it skips out too much. It gives you
Yeah,
just enough to get invested, and it did it so well. So
yeah.
yeah, we get like this missive, this machination, like this whole intro is like a show where it has like the titles coming across like that as well. We get this intro to Europa, the opens, and then we get the big reveal. It's Alan the Alien's world. What are your thoughts on Alan the Alien, Zach?
I love Alan the Alien. I love
Same.
Alan the Alien. I'm like so sold on Alan the Alien. I'm hoping he's not like dead. I don't know. I don't know where
Hmm.
we're going with that, but I also loved the way he introduced not just his side of the story, but in order also brilliantly to move our plot that we're already following forward. Right? It's
Hmm.
not just cutting away to this other story that may come in later. It's actively pushing our plot forward.
Yep.
But we get like a full like history lesson. He gives us a full history lesson on Europa and is it Europa? Europa. Europa. Unova. Unova.
Europa, the Unopans, yeah. Yeah.
Fuck these. World number 5, okay, that we've been introduced to. This is basically Star Wars at this point.
Literally is.
And I
Yeah.
had to write down everything like I'm about to be taking a quiz. So I
Hmm.
wrote down like every point for their little history.
Yep.
But they basically got wiped out by Viltrumites. They were one of the planets that got wiped out by
Yep.
Viltrumites, but they did fight back, and it just didn't work out for them, right? And so
Hmm.
some of the not Europeans, this is gonna fuck me up. Uranus
Unopens
people, they're Uranus people.
got their asses up there.
They traveled and ran into the coalition of planets, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So
And
so they
Thaddeus, led by Thaddeus. Or
yes, who
Thetis.
was
Thetis?
who was Thaddeus. That's what I've got. Thaddeus. Thetis. So we've got fetus, we've got Uranus.
Yes, it is good. We're gonna go by Uranus from now on. That's
Yeah,
just
that's fine.
canon.
The Iranians are living life. So yeah, so obviously they started breeding camps on outposts that they were using to rebuild their society. The technology caught wind of Theodos, the leader of the coalition, and then which is actually the voice actor who does the voice of Optimus Prime. So
wow.
when I heard his voice, I was like, I know that voice, and then looked into it, I was like, yes, of course, it's
I
that guy.
wasn't
It's
a
called
big
Peter Cullen.
Transformers person, so it would be
Yeah.
a person like you that would have to catch it and tell me.
You know what?
So thank
I'm
you.
not either, but I just know that voice. But yeah, so anyway, he invited Marvin, which was the main
Mhm.
Unopen, to join them basically. And then he explains, right, we are trying to make basically a weapon to help stop the Viltrumites. So
Yeah.
he then we go back to the breeding camps and we find out they're actually trying to build this soldier which will be able to stand up against the Viltrumites, and then Alan the alien's born. So basically
Yes.
he's stronger than the others, and like he can put up a decent fight, but he can't beat them alone. And we do see
Yes.
that because in season 1, when Alan the alien meets Mark, they have a big scrap on the moon before obviously he then sits down and explains to him like his crack, basically, like this is what I do. So we see like he can hold his own, and obviously he does for a little bit in this before the ending.
Yeah.
But then he kind of says, catches us up. He's like, that's when I met Mark. That's when I understood, we've got another Viltrumite who's actually half human. And he even says sometimes to change the entire universe, you have to be title card Alan the
Oh,
Alien.
oh, perfect. It was
So
wonderful.
good.
It was
So good.
at this point, I just have no idea when these little title cards are going to come
Same.
in. When is anything going to happen? Like after this 20 minutes, when the end credit card comes up,
Hmm.
I'm just like at this point, like I know there's another half of the episode. Next episode, I fully expect the end credits to be at the beginning, or they're all over the place. They're just giving
Yeah.
me whiplash.
Yep, 100% that vibe. But I kind of love it. Like every time,
Oh, I
like because
do.
I literally turned, I was like, is this over? Like 20 minutes? And like I paused it and I was like, no, wait, there's like another 20 minutes. Let's calm
It's
down.
jarring, but
Yeah.
it keeps you interested. It keeps your
Hmm.
eyes on the screen, right?
Yep. And again, it's playing with formula, is what you said, right? It's
Mhm.
playing with it all the time where you don't know when to expect the title card to come in. Now we don't know which title card's going to come in. We don't know when the credits are going to roll, because then the whole rest of this was basically an after credits scene.
I almost expect an episode of Downton Abbey to be placed right before it goes into the Invincible title card, and then we get our episode, right? It'll be like a 2-hour episode.
Maggie Smith's like, one is not invincible. And then it's just the rest of the episode.
Change it. I want you to edit that one. That's gonna be that's the edit you need to do. Okay, I'm putting you on
Maggie
that
Smith
task. That is
saying those
brilliant.
words.
That is so perfect.
I will get on it straight away.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. So then we then follow
yeah.
Alan the alien goes back to Unova. He goes to see the coalition, right? He gives them an update. He tells them, I found this Viltrumite. He's half Viltrumite. If I can get him on board, he can help us. Then we get introduced to his girlfriend as well, his,
Do we get a
General
name for her?
Telia. Telia.
I just have
Telia.
girlfriend. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Alan's girlfriend. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just sexist. You can call me misogynist. Whatever. Alan's girlfriend.
There was a
There's
lot
too
of
many
names.
characters. Too many
A
characters.
lot of names.
Mhm.
A lot of names. But yeah, basically he gets told and he tells her, look, we need to get some more allies fast. Like that's his mission, basically. Find some more allies, build up, and now that he's got
Because
Mark,
the
he's
allies
like,
have been just dropping out because
Yeah.
everybody knows that something is coming. We get this really and we've had this all season, this impending sort of war that is, or like battle that is headed towards us. And when we get things like this, it reminds me of Buffy when like season 7, when everybody starts leaving town because they sense
Yes.
something coming, right?
Yep,
It is
yep.
allies are dropping like flies because they just know that it's too risky for them and they have to protect their own,
Mhm. Yeah. Very much that. It's a good comparison, actually. And again, like, remember the Viltrumites aren't the only threat. We've got like the Flaxons and there's other alien races as well who continuously come to Earth.
Yes.
So it is just about being ready, right? All the time. That's why we got the Guardians of the Globe doing their little missions as well, just to keep protecting the Earth, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, he then explains, like, obviously all about Mark saying that he could help. I love as well, he talks about, like, look, if we can then get through to like the Viltrumite kids and tell them, like, look, the evils of what their parents are doing, if we can get in there first, we could then build up an army to fight against them. And he spots straight away, he says, look, Omniman's the one that flew off. He didn't kill his son. He flew away. This is a weakness in them. We've got to capitalize on this,
Oh,
right?
and I wrote down the quote too. It's Viltrumites
Yes.
do not fight each other, but a son defies his father. These are weaknesses. Oh,
Yes.
the writing, Adam, the
Oh,
writing.
so
It's
strong,
good.
isn't it? It like gives me
Yes,
goosebumps when I hear
it
it
does.
sometimes. I'm like, oh, so good. Yeah. So then, we're getting up to the tough part. So then, yeah, it basically explains that about the kids. And then Theodos explains to Alan, he says, look, I believe that there's a mole in the council because straight away, like and Alan notices that when he's explaining to the council, he looks around, you see him very quickly look around, he sees the other aliens are all like talking amongst each other and looking at him in a weird way. And then obviously Theodos takes him to one side and says, I believe that we can't trust somebody on this council. Remember, like, you got attacked straight away.
Yeah.
Like they know somehow the Viltrumites are getting information. How are they getting that? I need you to find that out.
I'm
tasks
so
Alan with that.
jaded with this show right now, and I'm so on edge and suspecting everybody that I immediately
Yeah.
called him. And it wasn't out of any sort of like smarts
Same.
or intuition or anything, but I was like, at this point, I'm like, everybody's a suspect.
Yep.
Fetus status, it's you, sir, you.
Yeah, I did the same. I paused it. I turned to David and I was like, Optimus Prime, he is the one. He's the one. He's going to turn.
Yes.
And then I love this as well when like the narrator's trying to cut back to Amber and like
Everybody
the
just fucking
sex.
this episode.
Everyone's-
Everybody's
yep.
fucking all over the
Fucking-
place. Everybody's fucking. We can't
fucking,
show
fucking.
anything. We have to show
Yep.
the cat. The cat starts licking his damn balls because this is the most PG thing that they can give us right now. We did get like a shirtless animated Mark that I really was turned on by and would have liked to see more of. So
And like Amber touching his
maybe-
chest, I was like,
maybe
that
come
would've
back
been
to
me.
that. I would like to watch that. That's something I would like to watch.
Absolutely that. And obviously we get Alan the alien, and then like Talia like jumps out into the apartment, right, and like basically jumps on him, and then they just start having sex immediately.
We see tentacles. I guess that's nudity over there.
True that, and like even the narrator's like, okay, we're getting tentacles, let's pull away from this now. So then we cut forward to Alan and Talia. They're eating in the restaurant now. This for me, I love when stuff like. A lot of Tarantino movies do this where like it's like a normal conversation between two people having like food in a restaurant, then bam, everything
Something wild
changes
happens,
immediately.
right?
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
huge hole just blasted through this space restaurant that they have, and fucking Viltrumites, like a gaggle of like gang members, just like pull his ass. It's like basically pulling him out of a car, pull his ass
Yeah.
out. And they like demand, so they want info on Nolan and if he sired an heir. Because I wonder if that's a big no-no, right? I wonder if he was not supposed to be doing that.
100%.
Probably, yeah, obviously, because they would want him like a full Viltrumite, right? Who's raised Viltrumite. And so Nolan already broke some rules. We're learning, and I love that we are learning this through the actions that are happening, like just side conversations. He's not here, he's not present, but we're still learning that this man is in some serious shit himself, right? He not only left his post, but he also sired an heir, which he was not probably supposed to do.
With a human. Yeah.
Yes. But
Yeah,
poor
so-
Alan. I thought they fully killed him right here too.
Oh my
Like,
God.
they
Like,
kick his ass. They rip him limb from limb.
you know what? Like, it was brutal because it kept cutting back to Talia, who like all she could do was watch through the glass. She couldn't do
Terrible.
anything.
I shouldn't feel anything for cartoons. I hate that I have emotion over cartoons.
All the emotions, right? Like getting horny
Yes.
over Mark, and then like all of this happening where you start crying like 5 seconds later.
I've known them 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes, and I'm already invested in their storyline as well.
But you know what? That is credit to the writing of this show, where like 5 minutes of getting to know some new characters. Yes, we met Alan before, but not like this, where like we learn
Yes.
his whole journey, him being born. We find out he's got a girlfriend, all of this,
Just
and
the
then
little scene of
this
him showing
happens.
up at his apartment and like kind
Yeah.
of playing around with his little space pussy is interesting. It just builds his whole character, right? And it
Yep.
makes us feel bad that he's getting his ass kicked. Now, I will say they're doing some great work with these Viltrumites, because one of the things
yeah.
I've always had problems with in media and any shows, and even Buffy, right? Especially with Glory, like we hear of how bad she is and how much of a baddie she is and how strong she is, but we never saw Glory like rip people limb from limb, like do shit that she probably could have really done, right?
Yeah.
I love that they're showing us Viltrumites who will not hesitate. They'll skip a pun and go straight for the jugular, and they will fuck somebody up. And it raises the stakes because it shows us how dangerous all of them really are. And that's going to come up later. I mean, this show really does go 0 to 100 in no time.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And like the reason it's funny, like I had this conversation with Ian in episode 1 where I said, when you see the opening with Mark and Omni-Man, when like it's a different reality, they are not doing like the I'm an evil mastermind. Here's my grand speech of how evil I am. They are just doing evil
They're just
shit,
showing
which
us.
shows
They're
them.
showing
Yeah,
us, which is
exactly
not.
that.
It's not common. That's not
Nope.
entirely common. You even have I mean, you think of the most famous villains in history in of media, and they don't always. They often give the speech of how bad I am, and let me
Yep.
tell you how bad I am, but they don't show you.
They talk the talk, they don't walk the walk. And like I love that we just in this show especially, like we don't even need to be told much about the Viltrumites to know they're gonna fuck
I've
shit
seen
up, and
everything I
they
need to
do.
see. Okay, sir. Let me just like exit the situation here. You want to
Yep,
know about Nolan? Let me tell you about Nolan. I won't sugarcoat nothing.
exactly. Just take a look at Alan. That's all you need to know. Like
Just
literally.
spare my insides, please. Let me retain all of my organs within my body.
Who are Alan? That's not what happened, right? Like literally
No.
when the first guy tore his arm off, I was like, shit, like surely they're gonna keep him alive though. And then like
Yeah,
when
just
she
like,
punched through
without an
him,
arm or something. When you put,
yeah.
And then just also we need to like just pause on the brilliance of like their sort of space choreography, how everything nobody talks in space, everybody's silent, they just think to each other. Space
Yep.
sounds super quiet as well when they do fight in space. Like when he gets ripped limb from limb, he's left there and he's just still because he's in space and
Hmm.
he's just still in space, right? It's not like
Yep.
Star Wars where you hear explosions and all of these different sounds and sound effects,
Hmm.
and it brings such a realism to, again, a cartoon.
Hmm. Yeah, it's honestly it was beautifully done. And again, like when it cuts back to Talia just looking out at him because she knows there is
Yeah.
nothing she can do. And like that's what makes it pulls at you even more. There's no kind of safety. There's no like, oh well, she could nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing can be done now. He's dead, he's out there.
I don't even know how they got
Um,
his body. How the
I
heck did you
know.
get him back in here?
He just floated on in. They
Just like
waited
sent
years
a
for his
fishing
body.
line out and just like
Reeled him
reeled
in.
back in.
We got him. Go, go, go. But yeah, so obviously as Zach hinted to there, they obviously pull Alan back in somehow. We see him in hospital. Obviously, she's crying next to him. And then our cheeky Thetis comes in. And he says to her, look, like try and get him back. He then obviously kind of ushers her out. And then this was, oh my God, this is the confirmation of this is the mole when he literally turns off the machine, turns everything down, and then just says, forgive me, Alan. And then we
But I
get
don't know. So are we
credits.
supposed to like? I know we're supposed to believe that he's dead, but do you think he's dead?
I don't think so. I think there's going to
Okay.
be more to this. And
They
that's not
they
me saying
introduced him
because I
too
know.
much. Yeah, I mean they
Yeah.
introduced too much of him to really
Hmm.
like kill him like that.
I know. And Seth Rogen as well, man. I mean, you've got somebody like a big name for that character as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, but I hope we do get to see a lot more of him because I really love Alan the
I don't
Alien.
think we're gonna see a lot more. If we see him again, it's gonna be a lot less because he has no body parts left.
Nope,
It's gonna be
that's
a
it.
head. It's gonna be a floating head on a little piece of like space machinery, just like floating around.
They've still got it like on the fishing line, just pulling him along every time. But yeah, then we get the credits where we get like directed by, and I was like, that's why I literally went, whoa, like 20 minutes, and
Yes.
then we had the rest. But it great. Again,
And
it's
then we
great.
enter
It's
our
great.
Invincible episode. Now this is the episode of
Yes.
Invincible.
Now we're back. So then we cut back to the new Guardians. We get Duplicate, who is working out with herself, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then Rex walks in. This is like the classic Rex who like is just doesn't understand like sometimes that other people's feelings exist. So like
Yeah.
straight away he's like, you had an affair, you cheated on me with a mortal, and she's like, are you absolutely kidding me?
This is
Like
from both sides. This is like an absolutely ridiculous, immature
it's a shit show.
conversation,
Yeah.
and it just like
Yep.
paints them as like very naive superheroes, which is like great to add
Yep.
to later that they are a little bit innocent, right?
Mhm.
Because what is her thing is she says not how she connects with the immortal, but she says if you add up all of our ages, we're
Yeah.
probably as old as
It's
The immortal, like
it's
that's such a like a childish argument, you know?
well, she says like we've died the same amount of times, so like we kind
Yeah.
of get each other on that level, which obviously Rex
Mhm.
will never get. But I love that all of this is broken up by yet another childish character, but in a very fun way, which is the
Yes.
Shapesmith. I love this when he walks in the room and is like trying to pass as human by saying all of these ridiculous dialogue, and like literally Rex is like,
And he's
"Where are
just
you from
passing through.
again?"
He just goes through, and
Yeah.
we don't focus on him longer than like 30 seconds, and then we're like moved on, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I love as well, like when he gets on the treadmill and just runs on the spot and doesn't even turn the treadmill on, and they're just watching him do
Shapesmith
it.
is like is up there in rankings for my favorite characters right now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's fun. Every time he's in a scene, he brings like an
Yeah.
injection of fun into the show, which can be very dire at times. Obviously, when we get to the Debbie
Need
stuff
more of
later.
it. It's just it
Yep.
gives us the Anya Jenkins of it all. It really
Yes.
does. It's the
Yep.
it's the non-human trying to learn how to be human, right?
hmm
Um, and that's just always fun. It's always fun. Like I want to see the Shapesmith try to count money or like play the game of life, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, do like more human stuff. And you know what? It'll be fun to do that journey, as you say, because every time, and it worked in both ways with Anya as well. Because obviously, when we get the body and she doesn't know how to react to a situation, it's
Mhm.
devastating, right? Compared to like
It can be
making
used for
things
an
comical.
intensely emotional scene
Yes.
as well. Yes, it's just a brilliant sort of like plot device.
Exactly that. We then cut to Ruddy, so he's sitting meditating to classical music.
Mhm.
Monster Girl enters. He's doing like a scan of his brain above him. He's basically trying to stop himself from feeling fear, right? Because he
Yeah.
knows that that's what holds him back in a fight. Because he's getting used to these human emotions. Again, kind of Anya coded, a little bit
Yeah.
Glory coded there as well. He's getting used to these human feelings because before he was a robot, he didn't have any of
Mhm.
this. And he knows that he says that's going to make me a better fighter. And to which she says, like, but fear will only help you. Like in the long run, that's how we know
It's
we're
whatever.
alive.
So we have my tier list, my ranking of favorite characters, and then we have my ranking of least favorite characters. And these two fall on least favorite. I do not give a
Mhm.
fuck about Rudy. I don't care about his journey. I don't care about any of that. Never felt anything.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't give a fuck about Monster Girl either. She's fun sometimes, but like
hmm
I don't care about these two. And their little parts in the episode were the parts where I would pull up my phone and get on
hmm
my phone for a second.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually preferred him as robot, if I'm honest. I think he had a bit more
Kind
to
of.
him
I
where,
think so.
like because he was a robot that started to feel feelings, and that was more interesting than just suddenly becoming
Yeah.
human and not understanding. But I do like the kind of Iron Man thing when he's inside of the suit now. I think that's kind of cool. But yeah,
Mhm.
so obviously they agreed. He asks her out on a date, and that's the whole like feeling fear, getting over your fear, asking her out on a date. So they agree to that.
It's like
Now,
spare me, please. We're
uh,
we're we're aging. We're getting more adult. I don't want to see them go to the movies.
I know, right? They're still like kids at the end of the day.
For sure.
Now, oh, this next scene. So this is
I
the
know.
start of like the Debbie spiral.
This is really great Debbie stuff.
It's phenomenal. So obviously we get this cut of the community center. It's the spouses of superheroes. It's like an AA meeting basically. Debbie obviously attends. Carol is the woman that she spoke to on the phone. There's one little moment here that I absolutely need to
Hmm.
highlight 'cause I think it's brilliant. It's when Debbie is looking down. She's talking to Carol without looking at her, and she's stirring her coffee, continuously stirring,
Yes.
stirring, stirring.
Yes.
Carol puts her hand on Debbie's hand and stops her from stirring. And there's
This
nothing
is a
said. She just looks up.
cartoon, Adam. They're doing
Yes.
this in a cartoon. That
hmm
like cartoons you just don't add
You don't
little
get this.
looks and glances and like an actor's facial performance. You just don't
Yes.
do that in a cartoon. And they're doing that in this
hmm
show. And it's wonderful. It's so
Oh,
good because like
yep.
Sandra Oh might as well be standing in front of me doing this, right?
Exactly that. Yeah.
Hmm.
It was honestly, it gave me like, there's so many moments in this show, like when I got goosebumps for different reasons, and this was one of
Yes.
them. I was like, I was not expecting this. That little moment says everything without saying anything. They don't say anything
Hmm.
to each other, and you get straight away what that moment is doing.
Hmm.
Beautiful, beautifully
It's
played.
great. I
Yeah.
also don't trust any of these people in this room. I think somebody is
Mm,
out to get us. I think somebody in this group is trying to learn more about Mark, already knows who she is,
hmm
and somebody is wanting to know more about Mark. Um,
mm,
and I don't
interesting.
know, we've got a plot going on in this thing, and it could have been orchestrated by Olga. I don't know. See, now I'm like spiraling, and I have
Mm,
my conspiracy theory wheels going because
this is good.
I
This is
just don't
good.
trust these bitches. And I also suspect Lucinda because we cross her letter, and she looks a little sus to me.
hmm
So
You
yeah,
got
we
your
got
eye on that one,
something.
huh? Yeah.
All of them, all of them.
Um,
I have my eye
all of
on
them.
everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, like as well, like this is horrendous because it seems like initially Debbie is like befriending Theo, right? Like he invites her
Mhm.
to the bar afterwards, and like she's watching them all. Like this is what Debbie's needed for a long time, like to trauma dump with people that understand what
Yes.
she's going through. She's needed this for a while, and it kind of and that moment of when she has that the messages that she sent to Mark and he hasn't replied because Mark's been the only one she can trauma dump with. And that point when
Yes.
she deletes the message, she knows actually Mark is starting a new journey. I've told him to be himself. I can leave him to do that. I've got this now, which makes it
Mhm.
so much more devastating when we get where this goes later on. But that little moment when she deletes the message, beautiful again, says
Yeah.
everything about this.
And it's great, and
Um,
it's her kind of taking it on herself too.
yeah.
She's actively trying to heal, right? It's
Mhm.
not a character who's spiraling, who's drinking and dancing to like um the Venus song in her living room, while she's drunk, and just like doing the female spiral that we get, the
Mhm.
classic tropey female spiral. She's
Yeah.
actively trying to take care of her own grief and take care of her own sort of mental health, and it's so specific too that I wonder if she can connect to anybody who's
Mm.
not in on the superhero world or like involved with any sort of superhero and how dangerous that is, and
Yeah.
or has lost somebody in the superhero world. Like, can she connect to an average person? Can she go to a group of who like of people, regular people who've lost their spouses just like
Mhm.
regularly, right? Like somebody who's
Mhm.
died in a car accident, or somebody who lost a son to drinking and driving or something, right? Can she do that, or is because the way this ends is pretty devastating, and
Mhm.
if that's it for her, then like where does she go from here?
Exactly, Larry. Like, because for so long, I kind of thought, I know that what happened with Olga, like, she's still in a different place because obviously it was her husband that killed Olga's
Yeah.
husband. But at the same time, like, she had a superhero partner, right? Whereas
Mm-hmm.
now Debbie, like, I mean, especially as you said, where this goes, who else can she talk to? Does she go back to Mark? Because she knows that's unfair to him now. And I
Yeah.
love that in her doing that, she's still caring for her son whilst feeling her pain. She's still saying, I need to let him go and live his life now
Yeah.
even though I'm holding on to so much of this. And the right thing for me to do right now is to open up to him and to dump this on him. But at the same time, I need to be a mother. I need to go and let him
And
live
it's
his
just
life, and
such a
I need to
terrible time
feel
for all of
this.
this to happen,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
everything just being like Nolan doing this during a time of like really heavy change. Had Nolan not even done this, this still would have been a really hard thing for Debbie to go through. Is like
hmm
letting her son go, her son
yeah,
growing up and leaving the house, and her not like you feel an absence. If she had had Nolan in the house with her, it probably would have been a little easier, but she still would have felt Mark's absence. Now what she does, she goes home alone, and she's
hmm
in her house, this big ass house alone. She needs to get a tiny apartment. She needs to like be in downtown area where she can go out to bars and like find a social group. But she's going to this big ass house that she used to share with her family, and now
yeah.
nobody is there.
Yeah. Yeah. And she says that later on with Theo, right? When
Yeah,
she says, like, do we sell the furniture? Like, do we move? Like, there's all these questions that, like, what stops
yeah.
me from reminding me of my trauma? Like, how do I get past this? But
Hmm.
this is obviously undercut with Zach's favorite scene when Ruddy and Monster Girl go on their date. Now, I'll quickly breeze through this because, to be honest, not a lot happens. Like,
It's okay.
honestly,
It's okay.
they
You
go.
can give all your compliments, everything. I'll sit and listen to
Honestly,
you.
to be honest, I've just got beats of what happens. There's no compliments here. It's like
Yeah.
she wants to learn about his childhood. They're going to see a horror movie. He basically says to her, "There's more to it like that." They try to get in. She slips a woman $10 to who then covers for them to get them into the horror movie.
Hmm.
Afterwards, they go to a Burger Mart because he's never had fast food before, and she says, "There's no waiters in Burger Mart. What are you talking about?" That's basically it.
Yeah.
Now
I
let's
did
get
think
back
it
to
was
the
funny that they can't buy an adult movie
yeah.
ticket.
Even though they are like, I mean, she's definitely an adult, just another little
Yes.
girl's
That's a,
body. Um,
that's okay. That's good.
But again, she used her adult smarts by going to that woman and saying, "Look, here's $10. Like, can you get us in?" And she obviously does that.
Yeah.
Um, Now this next scene, oh, like this broke my heart. So
Hmm.
Debbie and obviously went to the bar. Theo offered her to go to the bar. They go, they start talking about how they move on, right? So this is when I said, like, Debbie's like, "What do I do? Like, do I sell the furniture? Like, do we move? Like, how do
Yeah.
I get out of this?" And obviously, this was the killer part where he's kind of opening up to Debbie as well, where he says, "Look, I know we're not supposed to talk about names and everything like that, but he says like my partner Alana, she was the green ghost, and straight away that's an alarm bell in Debbie's mind. She's like, oh my God, this is another
Yeah.
person who Nolan killed. Like,
It's just
oh,
like, oh, you think about the body count, not just with superheroes, but with everybody in that city. She can't turn
mhm,
around. She can't turn to the
yeah,
side without being face to face with somebody who her husband has affected that person's entire life, right? Now,
Yep.
Theo, I don't feel bad for because I suspect something with this man. He invites her to this bar,
Yep.
gets her kind of alone. He is the first one to open up and like drop the anonymity thing that they're supposed to have. That is the big rule, and they've placed it in front of us enough and told us about this rule of anonymity, or like not giving too much information, that when he then is so quick to drop details about his life and who his superhero was and who he is, that is getting her to like let down her guard and do the same. That is strategic. There's something wrong with this man.
Agreed. And you know what? Like, you can connect the dots in so many ways. Olga gave Debbie the card. When Debbie rang the
Yes.
number, she said, "We're expecting you." Debbie goes there.
If they all team up against Miss Debbie, I'm gonna riot.
I'm gonna
against
riot.
this show.
I'm gonna
Yes.
flip this computer. But yeah, like all of this, and you know what? Like I've got here, like Debbie goes right back to the start of her trauma, because like when she goes to the bathroom, like because here, this was the one point when she deleted that message to Mark and said to herself, "I've got a group of people here who
Just
understand
needed
what
a
I'm going
fucking
through."
drink and to just
Something.
like, kind of, and that's a huge important part of the sort of like withholding identities from each other, is that you are able to just kind of trauma dump without getting too
Yep.
specific about it. And she, out of anybody going to that group, needed that. She needed to not know that this is another victim of my husband. I think he's out for revenge, though.
Yeah,
I think he knows exactly who she is.
And you know what? As soon as she got that confirmation, and he just left her when she was like emotional, and just
Yes.
like it
And
hit
tells her
me
not to
right
come
in the
back to
stomach.
group.
Yes.
Like, he follows, so she leaves. She leaves. She was going to fully leave that bar, right? He stops her. She finally comes clean, and then he makes it worse and tells her, just you don't belong in group. Don't come back to group. You're not safe.
I know. It's heartbreaking.
Dickhead.
Never liked that, Theo. So then, yeah, before that, we cut back to William and Mark, so they're in their room. William wants to know all about Mark and Amber having sex. Mark asks William of the same question about that guy. He's like, "You know what are you talking
I
about?"
like it too. I
Yeah,
like it.
same,
Like,
same.
I like that Mark is also willing to hear about William's sex
Yep.
life, right?
Yeah.
It's like it drops that, straight dude, straight bro
Yep.
sort of that classic whatever trope, whatever
I
stereotype.
get you. Yeah.
I love seeing them together and interacting so much that I just need a full episode of them just hanging out
Yeah.
and like relaxing together and talking about life, because this is stuff that we get a sense of their long-standing friendship and why they've been friends so long.
Very true. And like the episode that we did get of like them hanging out in season 1, which we jump back to here, was like traumatic for William. And he even says, like,
Yes.
"Look, like I'm not ready for any of that stuff yet. Like I'm still suffering from what happened with Rick," which,
Yeah.
was horrendous what happened with him in season 1. And he obviously, I love that callback that William makes later on, like when we'll get to that part when he basically reminds Mark when he says, "Remember what happened when you chose not to help before?" And he's like reminding him,
We'll
"Look
talk
what
about
happened."
that. We'll talk about
We'll
that
get
when
to
we
that.
get to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rick though is really interesting because it's a layer that we kind of understand as gay people
Yeah.
or queer people.
Yeah.
Is gays get really attached really fast. Like I knew I was in love with my husband by like week 2. I was like, like this is it. This is my life. This is gonna be my forever
I'm
partner.
putting a ring on my own finger. Let's go.
Yes, William had just met Rick, so they didn't know each other very well.
Yeah.
And already this is already like a huge love that William has now lost in Rick, and that is I identify myself in that.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
I get you. I see.
I mean, there's even a line I think in season 1 where he's like, "He's going to be my husband." Like just everything immediately, like bam, like straight
let's
away.
start the moving process. Let's get an apartment together. It's just we do it in 6 months or less.
We absolutely do, and we're in love like immediately.
Yes.
Then there was a knock at the door. I love William's reaction when he goes to the door and he's like, "I think this is for
And we
you,
just hear the
Mark."
voice. We just hear the voice, and I'm already like trying to envision what he is looking
Same.
at. I'm thinking something big with tentacles, something like some big
Yeah,
monster.
floaty.
And
And then
he doesn't have a
who's there?
question about it. He just walks back to the bed and he's like, "It's for you.
Yeah.
That's fucking Seance dog."
There's Aeon's dog, and like I love to where like when I saw that I was like, wait, it's his figure from before, and I was like, okay, like are they gonna go down this route? But obviously Mark calls him out in his bullshit straight away. He's like, "Nope, you are not real." They have a bit of a scrap outside. And then obviously then the dog is like, okay, like
Yeah.
let me tell you the truth. We then like slowly unveils himself to be Newellzot from the planet Tharax. Tharaxa?
Another
Yeah,
name
another
that
name,
I'm just
another
like,
name.
should I write this down or should I even try?
Yeah, so yeah, I know. Honestly, like I was like so
Yeah.
many like, where were we before with Alan? Now we've got another planet, another race of people, and we've never seen these people before. Well, this race before.
Yeah.
So obviously he
These
then tells him, look, we heard about the whispers and the rumors of like this invincible character through like that reached our planet. Our planet's been pummeled with asteroids. We need your help with this. Initially, Mark denies this, and then because he says, look. I'm at college now. I've got these priorities. And then William appears and follows him out. And then what does William say,
And
Zach?
so William gives him like a pep talk, right? It was like,
Yeah.
do you remember last time when you didn't want to help and look what happened, right? I want to know your thought on it because you seem to have really liked that little pep
hmm
talk he gives him.
hmm I I get that in many ways it's not fair. Because Mark is still figuring his way out to be invincible. And I think if anyone, William should know Mark best. So if anything, it's not a good thing to drop shit on him like that.
Yes.
But I think at the same time, William's intentions, I think, are trying to be best intentions. They're trying to say to Mark, look, this seems like a good thing. These people are suffering. You should go and help them. But he is putting a big guilt trip on Mark, and that isn't fair in many ways.
It's a huge guilt trip on Mark. It's really
Yeah.
like it, and I notice a lot of people doing this. It's just one after the other. We kind of get that in this little 10-minute span because
Yeah.
Cecil's gonna say the same thing a little bit later about
Yes.
his
Yeah.
dad, right? Like throwing
hmm
things up in his face. And these characters keep bringing up the past in order to push Mark into a direction rather than
Yeah.
we're getting
That's
a
a good
lot of
point.
themes about that from this episode, by the way.
That's
Is
a good point.
Debbie
Yeah.
telling Mark at the beginning, "Hey, find your own path. Make sure you find your sense of self." And then
hmm
you end this episode with different people pushing him in a specific direction, whatever direction
hmm
suits them best, right?
Yeah.
That is not fair for William to do. Love you, William. Love you, William. I'll always be championing William, but that's shitty. That's real shitty to
hmm
Mark. Just he can't save the universe right now. He can't. He needs to take things little by little, and what we learn a little bit later is that like, or so as far as we know, that this praying mantis planet is not even like the story that he gets is not even fucking real. So now
Yeah.
he is up and left his
Manipulated.
life for a couple weeks. He has just started school. He should be attending classes. He should have like just a little bit of normalcy, right? And just
hmm
like Buffy Summers, it's something stops him from just being able to be normal just for a little bit, right? He's finally
hmm
coming around to just being normal for a little bit and understanding what his mom said. Find your sense of self. Find
hmm
yourself as Mark Grayson. And
Yes.
then you have people like fucking William being like, "Well, if you have to go help him. If you don't help him, you know what'll
hmm
happen." It's like,
Yeah.
"Thank you, William.
hmm
I don't already have flashes of my head being shoved into a fucking
Yeah.
train to
Yeah.
relive over and over again. Let me go help this
Help these
random
people.
planet that I've
Yeah.
never heard of, you know?"
hmm
It's just not cool.
Yeah. There's a level of like people are accessing an emotional manipulation with Mark, especially at a time when he's
Truly.
incredibly vulnerable right now. And I think even that one line when like this Newell Zolt says, "We believe in you, Mark Grayson." He doesn't say
Yes.
invincible. So again, that's getting through to Mark being Mark. And I love that when Mark, when William brings up obviously Rick, and then he even says, "Oh, Cecil said that like he's actually in recovery. He should be out here by about a month's time."
Hmm.
Like straight just reminds him, by the way, this is the update on him. Obviously, as you said, Cecil says he's not happy with him and orders him not to go. And then Mark says, "I need to listen to myself, not you." And he says, "Your father felt the same way." Again, it's like another slap in the
And he's
face.
not able to listen to himself. This wasn't even himself saying that. His
Yeah.
himself, the Mark, his decision, his inner person told him that he wasn't going to go on this mission. He was
hmm
guilted into doing that by William. Then we have Cecil, who isn't wanting Mark to. Cecil just doesn't want Mark to. He doesn't want to lose control of Mark. He's too
Yes.
weary
Yeah.
about Mark, and I get it. I fully get it. I understand that
hmm
we should be have an eye on this guy, right?
Yeah.
Um, but your father was the same way. Really? Are you
I
fucking
know.
kidding
I
me?
know.
Are you
I know.
fucking kidding me? All of these
hmm
people. He does like make sure that he stops to call Amber, and that's a cute little moment. That's a cute
Ah,
little like
this.
Spider-Man,
Love
Spider-Man Mary
this.
Jane thing.
Yeah.
And again, Amber is not pissing me off this episode.
Nope. Love
She, even
this.
though I don't like this decision, it's just one person who validates the decision that he is making, right? He's
Yep.
making the decision to go, and she's like, "Nope, don't need another word. You do what you feel like you need to do, and
Hmm.
I'm right behind you. You just let me know when you come back, and I will tell your
Yep.
mom for you, right?" And in
Yep.
that way, I really applaud her because somebody's got to fucking do it.
I love like the literal line she says is never apologize for saving lives. This is the deal, and I'm
Yeah.
good with it. Complete. That's all they needed to hear. Nothing more,
We're not
nothing
we're
less.
out of season one. She's no longer complaining and kicking
Yeah,
curbs that he is
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And
has
like
to be
bitching
invincible.
exactly, or bitching about him to his friends about it. Like, like
Yeah.
she gets it now. And this is that, as you said, this is the side of Amber where I'm like, okay, I'm getting on board with it now. I really like
Yes.
this. Obviously, as you said there, he says like I'm going to be gone for like a couple of weeks. Can you tell my mom? He actually says I love you to Amber as well for the first
Hmm.
time. I don't think she heard it because the call was
Yeah, I
cancelled.
was unclear about that, but maybe
Yes,
she did. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing we'll see. Obviously, it
Hmm.
takes 6 human days to get to this planet. Now this is when we get back to Debbie. Now,
Yeah.
Debbie leaves the bar crying. Theo chases
Oh
out
yeah,
after
this is what
her.
we just
Yeah, yeah,
described.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I jumped a
And then
little ahead.
it's literally that. It's like, this line when she says, I can't heal because my husband's not dead. He's just gone.
I
And
just was
obviously
screaming.
reveals.
I was screaming. I was
Same.
like, "Don't say shit. Don't say
Yep.
it. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it."
Yep.
Somebody needs to tell this woman she doesn't need to apologize to anybody. She doesn't need to apologize
Did
to
nothing wrong.
anybody.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
She did nothing wrong. She should not be blamed for the sins of her husband, end of the day.
Exactly. But she
She
is.
loved it. Yeah. By everyone. Clearly here when Theo says, like, don't bother coming back. And then she says, I didn't know who he was. And he says, you should have.
Like, are
Jesus
you kidding me? The
Christ.
way these people are treating the Graysons in this episode, man,
Yes.
is really I'm taken to task. All of them. I've got a list of
Honestly.
names.
Keeping an
Hmm.
eye on those
It's my
shitheads.
kill. It's my death list 5. Okay, and it's turning to 20 like real fast. It's just climbing.
You're gonna be like Uma Thurman on the plane, like crossing names off.
God, could you imagine if they just dropped the bride into this
Oh
show?
my
Just
God.
how
I'd live
chaotic
for
that.
it. I
She
would
could kill the
live.
Viltrumites. I know.
Of
I have
course she
faith in
can.
her, right? Hmm.
All of them with the 5-point palm exploding heart technique. She knows what she's doing. I've got this.
She's got it. She's got
The
it.
crazy 88 Viltrumites.
I want to talk
Um,
about this shot again in a cartoon of her
Beautiful.
walking. It's real wide shot, huge wide shot of
Yeah.
her walking down a city street, lonely. She's
Yeah.
lonely. Her heart is just broken, and she's even worse off than the little bit of hope that she had going to that group has now been snatched away from her, and she's in an even worse place, is what we're made to assume. And she's walking truly alone this time, even without Mark, down the
Mhm.
city street. We pan up into the space where Mark is alone in space as well.
Mhm.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
wonderful. I get all the metaphors you're throwing at me. I get everything you're trying to tell me. Mise en scene, everything, every film technique word that you have, I see
It's
it
all
here.
here. Yeah.
Yes, it's all there.
It's absolutely
Yeah,
stunning. Like the
it's
way, and
good.
again, this is saying everything without saying anything. Like
Yeah,
literally, no words, we get it. And even this, like when we see Mark, when we follow him to this planet, it looks beautiful. Like the
yeah.
depth that they create with like this planet and everything, it looks amazing. The color palette, stunning. And
This like
then
harmonic music, like
yes, I really rewrote the music. The music is beautiful. That's what I've literally got in my notes. Gorgeous.
it's our
But again,
false
it's
false sense of security.
yes, I was saying it's misdirection again, right there in my notes. Misdirection. So then he says to him, the alien says to him, Nullzot says to him, oh, I need to take you to the monarchy. I need to take you to them. He's like, wait, where are the asteroids? I thought this planet was like
I
blowing apart.
literally
And he's
hear
like,
beautiful music
oh,
right now. This is
yeah,
a planet that's in danger.
exactly. This is like gorgeous. What are you talking about? He's like, oh yeah, my memory. I forget sometimes. Haha, let me take you to them. He gets there. He says,
Reveal.
Your Highness. He puts his head down to bow, comes up, and who is there, Zach?
It's Omni-Man, but we've got a big
Yeah.
question here, right? This is the thing we need to talk about is this Nolan Grayson, our Omni-Man from this universe that we saw throughout season
Mm.
1, chilling at a praying mantis like retreat? Is that this is has joined a praying mantis cult? Is just chilling and living his life,
Yep.
or is this Nolan from a different universe?
Mm. I I think this is our Nolan. And
You
the
think?
only reason why is because in episode 1, it was very much hinted that the other Nolans that we've seen are the killer Nolans who do not take shit, are the Viltrumite Nolans.
Hmm.
At the end of season one, we see Nolan fly off with tears in his eyes, and that is like ingrained in my mind. That for
Yes.
me was the crack in Nolan. So if there's ever going to be a Nolan that can link to that, it's
Hmm.
this Nolan here. That's
That's
what I'm
fair.
intrigued by.
That's
Yeah,
fair. That's a big answer. So
yeah,
good job for
yeah.
you.
But what did you think
This
when you saw him?
I just I kind of like thought it when he got off and everything was like really peaceful. I kind of thought he was probably there.
Yeah,
Seeing him is just I have just such a push pull because he's so daddy, but he's very evil. I'm
but
just
I
like
mean,
they didn't have to animate him so attractive. It just didn't. It was unnecessary. He could have looked like Harvey Weinstein. He could have looked like a warthog, you know. Um, but the it's just, I don't know. I just want these people to have peace. I want
yeah.
Debbie and Mark to have a little bit of peace. And now
Hmm.
he's face to face with his father. Even if it is Nolan from a different universe, he's seeing his father's face. He's like face to
Yeah.
face with this man who, hey, he has always known as his father.
Hmm.
And um, I just, I don't know. This was it. I'm surprised we're seeing him as quick as we are because I thought it was at
Same.
least going to be episode 4
Same.
or after that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, my jaw still hit the floor,
Hmm.
because we've been building up to this in many ways. We keep hearing Nolan's name, we keep seeing the
Yeah.
trauma that he's caused, but then just to see him in the most unlikely of places on this planet of pure peace and harmony, to then just see him there, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how
Do
we're
you think
seeing
this
Nolan.
is so then do you think this is a representation of a planet that we're seeing that was taken over by Viltrumites
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
has been brought to harmony as they believe?
I'd like to think so. Yeah, there's definitely
Hmm.
like there's some type of harmonization, obviously, with Nolan here, because this is
Yeah.
even just the way he says, like, hello, son, it's been a while. I don't know, there's just something in his voice when he says that. I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
something different. But I'm surprised we got here, as you said, because episode four, the next episode, is the last episode before we get a break into like the next year, basically. And then we get the rest. So I really thought they were going to save this stinger for that. Like, bam, Nolan comes crashing down to the earth, has it ready for a fight,
Yeah.
ends. I was expecting something
Again,
like
this
that.
show just upsettles
Yeah.
expectations like nonstop, right? Because
Hmm.
we all expected him to just come back with a fury, and he's
Yeah.
coming back with an open hand, and extended hand,
Yeah.
and fucking harmony music in the back, right? It's just it's never expect the unexpected when it comes to
Hmm.
Invincible.
Honestly, that's the best way to think about it. But yeah, that is our cover of Invincible season two, episode three, the Missive, the
Yeah.
Machination. So Zach, what's kind of your overall thoughts of this episode, and then give it your rating out of 10?
I think this might have been my favorite episode so far, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna give it 10
same,
out of 10. Sure.
same. Yep.
Um, I just love all of the Mark Debbie
Mm.
um parallels and contrasts, right? They showing them and their journeys sort of side by side in a linear format is just it's beautiful, and then capping it off with the shot from Debbie to Mark is I love that stuff. I love that stuff.
Hmm.
It's two sides of a household that has they both gone through the same thing, and they're dealing with it in different ways, and they have to deal with it in different ways, right? Debbie's not a superhero, so she's
Hmm.
not going to put on a suit and go punch things to get some frustrations out, you know. Whereas
Hmm.
Mark gets to do things. Debbie has to take a very like human approach to everything, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting seeing both sides of that. Plus, 20 minutes of an Allen TV show. I hope that's a backdoor
Yes.
pilot because, like, just give us the rest of it, right?
You know what? I couldn't agree more. Like I had 10 out of 10 written down. Like this for me has been such a highlight of not even just season two,
Mm.
but of entire Invincible I've seen so far.
It's just
Like,
getting bitter. It just keeps getting
yeah,
bitter.
it keeps highlighting how good the writing is of this show. And like, I'm so, like, I know Robert Kirkman is like the main writer, obviously, one of the main writers on the comic who's come over to do this, but there's other writers as well, but they just get it. Like they take us on these real emotional human journeys through a superhero TV show, right? And I've always said, the best way to approach this is when you can find yourself and see yourself in these moments, when you can see like, the human elements that you cling on to through this. The emotional kind of beats are all done incredibly well. Like, and as you said beautifully there, like Debbie is on one journey, Mark is on another journey, although they are going through the same thing in different ways. Debbie's going through this real emotional journey as a human. Mark has still got so much on his shoulders of being a superhero, but not becoming his dad, while still being affected by everything that his dad has done, how much his mother is broken up, sorry, and yet is still trying to be that figure that they can, that they can rely on each other. It's like, it's heartbreaking, but also, as you said, the Alan stuff like is both hilarious, funny. We've got the Shapesmith, which is great, but that Alan 20 minutes, and yet I'm so attached to those characters already.
And it's
Just
just
shows how
all
good the
in one
writing is.
episode, all in
Yeah.
one 45 to an hour long episode.
Yeah,
Just
honestly.
I don't even know how they do it. I don't understand
Yeah.
how they do it, because we've seen shows. Some of our favorite shows have struggled
Yeah.
to extend to 45 minutes, right? And this show
Mhm.
seems to just do it effortlessly. So
Yeah, honestly, it's so, so well done. And just one final question, Zach, for the next episode, which is going to be the mid-season finale, which is episode 4, which is still wild because I feel like we've been watching the show for like a year at this point. But what do you think is going to happen in this next episode?
I just have a feeling that this is not our Nolan. I have a feeling
Mhm.
this is a different Nolan. So
Okay.
I'm going to go with that. I think somebody in Debbie's group wants revenge. I think even a couple people could want revenge from Debbie's group. And if she didn't go into the group and they were already plotting, then who's the man? What's his name? Theo.
Oh,
I
Theo,
think
yeah.
now knowing who she is, he's going to be plotting revenge. So I think she's got her own battle going on over here, and I hope we leave off on like a pretty badass battle. Like I want not as extreme as season one's ending. we'll scale it back a little bit from that.
Yeah.
Not as much of a death toll, but I want some punching, some kicking, some grunting sounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
shirtless
honestly-
Mark.
Yeah, shirtless Mark and Omniman, because
Yes.
why not? And then Immortal comes in shirtless for no reason. But but yeah, for me, it's like, I honestly think leading off of that group of Viltrumites, I think they're going to come to Earth now. I'm going to try and get Mark. And I think Omniman is going to come with them, and there's going to be an Omniman versus Viltrumite scrap. That's what I think is going to happen.
Ooh, you know what?
And I think that'd be interesting.
That really fits too. It would
Yeah.
be it would be Nolan, like, but that's the thing, is like I don't want to see such a drastic change in Nolan where he's now like defending his family against the Viltrumites. I need to see some progression, but I have full faith in this show that they'll give us exactly as it needs to be. So
Oh, yeah.
looking forward to it.
Oh, same. But I think there's going to be a big fight. Like, this isn't the last we saw of those Viltrumites in space. I think they're going to come to Earth, and it's going to be an Omniman Mark versus the Viltrumite
I'm
standoff.
excited
I
to
think.
watch them
Yeah,
fuck some bitches up.
absolutely that. Tear into it. All right. Well, as I said, that was our cover of episode 3. We've got the last episode coming up. So obviously next week we'll jump into that. I'm so pumped for that. I should say mid-season finale. It's not the end, because then the rest we obviously get into the next year as well. But Zach, please tell everybody where they can find you on the internet.
Oh yeah, if you search Zachary Patton-Garcia, you'll find me. And I have a Patreon, patreon.com/AZB plus PLUS. And yeah, I'm excited to talk the rest of the show.
There you go, guys. All right. So if you want to follow the show, obviously we're on all socials. Just type in Last Week on Pod and you'll find us on all of the socials. Take a look and give us a cheeky follow on there. If you want to follow me, just type in Straughan87 everywhere. You will see my face. Remember, if you do want to watch these as well, they're all available on YouTube to watch. But if you do just want to listen, obviously they're available on all podcast platforms. So again, I want to say a big thank you, Zach, for jumping on and doing the last 2 episodes. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, jumping into next week, this is going to be even better.
Make sure whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up or a 5-star rating on the podcast platforms. Right?
Yes.
That helps every podcast out. Just make sure to do it.
Please do get the promotion out there. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we will catch you next week for the mid-season finale. Take care.